In this video, we will go over the worst punishments in human history. I'll start with the bad and slowly work our way towards the nightmares. Number 10. The oubliette dungeon. A type of prison where prisoners were left to be forgotten. The word oubliette comes from the French word oublier, meaning to forget. These dungeons were often small, narrow, and dark, with access only through a trapdoor in the ceiling. Prisoners were thrown in and left in complete darkness, sometimes with minimal food and water, to languish and die. The psychological torment of isolation, coupled with the physical hardships, made the oubliette a terrifying punishment that preyed on the victim's mind and body. Number 9. Chinese water torture. A form of psychological torture that involves dripping water slowly onto the victim's forehead, driving them to madness. The irregular pattern of the drops and the inability to predict when the next one will fall causes extreme mental distress. Over time, the continuous dripping can lead to severe anxiety, paranoia, and even hallucinations. Though less physically brutal than other methods on this list, the sheer psychological torment makes the Chinese water torture exceptionally cruel. Number 8. The Iron Maiden. A device that has become a symbol of medieval torture. This sarcophagus-like structure was lined with sharp spikes on the inside. Victims were placed within and the door closed, impaling them on the spikes. The spikes were carefully positioned to avoid vital organs, prolonging the agony. The Iron Maiden was not only a tool of death, but also a psychological weapon, designed to invoke horror and dread among the populace. Number 7. The rack. A favorite instrument of torture in medieval Europe. It consisted of a wooden frame with a roller at each end. The victim's wrists and ankles were secured to the rollers, and the device was slowly turned, stretching the body to breaking point. Ligaments, joints, and even bones could be dislocated or torn apart. The rack was used to extract confessions or information, often leading to permanent physical damage or death. Its mere presence was enough to strike fear into the hearts of many. Number 6. The breaking wheel, also known as the Catherine wheel, was a brutal execution method used in medieval Europe. The condemned person was tied to a large wheel and their limbs were systematically shattered with a heavy iron bar. The broken body was then woven through the spokes of the wheel and left to die. The process was slow and excruciating, often taking days for the victim to succumb to their injuries. The wheel was displayed prominently as a warning to others, reinforcing the authority of the executioners. Number 5. The Spanish donkey, a method of torture used during the Spanish Inquisition. The victim was made to straddle a wooden board with a sharp V-shaped wedge on top, like riding a horse. Weights were attached to the victim's feet, pulling them down and increasing the pressure on their crotch. The pain was unbearable, often causing severe injuries and mutilation. This torture was designed to extract confessions or punish those who deemed heretical or traitorous. Number 4. The Brazen Bull, a terrifying invention from ancient Greece. The brazen bull was a hollow bronze statue shaped like a bull. Victims were locked inside and a fire was lit beneath it, heating the metal until the person inside was roasted to death. The bull was designed with a system of tubes that transformed the victim's screams into the sound of a bull bellowing, creating a gruesome auditory illusion. Invented by Pedalus of Athens, who became its first victim, the brazen bull was used by the tyrant Phalaris of Acragas to instill fear and assert dominance. Number 3. The blood eagle, a gruesome execution method used by the Vikings. The victim's ribs were severed from the spine and their lungs pulled through the opening to create a pair of wings. This brutal ritual was not only a form of execution, but also a sacrifice to the Norse gods, intended to display the victim's courage and the executioner's skill. The sheer brutality and symbolic nature of the blood eagle make it one of the most terrifying punishments in history. Number 2. The rat torture, a method used in both medieval Europe and China. This involved placing a rat inside a metal container on the victim's body, usually the stomach. The container was then heated, causing the rat to panic and gnaw through the victim's flesh to escape. The intense pain and psychological terror made this punishment particularly horrifying. Rat torture was often used to extract confessions or as a means of punishment for those considered especially heinous criminals. Finally, number 1. Scaphism, an ancient Persian method of execution that was as slow as it was gruesome. The victim was stripped naked and confined between 2 boats or hollowed out tree trunks, with only their head, hands, and feet protruding. They were force-fed milk and honey, which induced severe diarrhea. The mixture of excrement and honey would attract insects that would eat and breed within the victim's flesh. Death came slowly from a combination of dehydration, starvation, and septic shock, while the person remained conscious for as long as possible. Scaphism was designed to be prolonged, humiliating, and excruciating death. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching.